I love this.
I wish there was video of the hand gestures that I have to do that voice.
Welcome to Egghead Anarchy. I am Brian.
And I am Alex.
And we're going to spend the next roughly hour to an hour and a half talking about movies, video games, and general nerdery. And I just want to take a minute because I was looking through our SoundCloud stats the other day, and something surprised me that I thought was really cool. I had no idea that anyone outside the U.S. listened to this show, but people do. Actually, the top 3 countries outside of the U.S. that we get listens from are, in order, number 1, the Netherlands. Number 2...
Netherlands!
I know, right? How cool is that? How cool is that? And then number 2 is Russia. And then number 3 is Australia. So thanks, everybody from the Netherlands, Russia, and Australia. And I mean, there's even other places. There's the United Kingdom, Germany, Canada. I mean, how cool is that? So, don't want to dwell on that too long. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone outside the U.S. who listens to this show. That was a very pleasant surprise when I went in to look at our stats the other day. So, just wanted to bring that up. Yeah, cool stuff. So, without further ado, we will get into our topics.
All right, this is going to be our retro games segment. And today in retro games, we are going to be discussing a long-lost mystery Neo Geo game that has been discovered, and an update to a game from 1987.
What?
So, I'll let you take it away with the first Neo Geo game.
Awesome. Yes. Okay. So, last month, I'll just read the first paragraph from the Kotaku article that we got this from. Last month, Neo Turf Masta bought an old Neo Geo test board for $750. After messing around with it for a while, he made one hell of a discovery, lurking inside what was a prototype version of an unknown, unreleased Neo Geo fighting game. It's far from complete, there's no UI or sound, and not all the character art is final, but there are 12 fighters, background art, and some semblance of a playable game. And then there's a video of it running, and I actually watched the video, and like, it's pretty freaking cool. I mean, what's cool about it is not only that, you know, it's ridiculously old and it's for the Neo Geo and it's a fighting game, which back when SNK was making fighting games for the Neo Geo, they were the king of fighting games. I mean,
and there's a lot of debate on whether or not this is made by SNK. A lot of the commenters seem to feel that it is not an SNK game.
I will say I can see that for a couple of reasons. One, there's no zoom. Like SNK fighting games, ever since Samurai Showdown, I believe. Samurai Showdown, I know King of Fighters did this too. They had the zoom, where when characters got close, they zoomed in, and that was a really cool feature. This game doesn't have that. And also, the general animation style seems a little bit different from what I remember the SNK animation types being like. But what I love about this is the placeholder characters and everything. It feels kind of like pulling the curtain back on game design a little bit. You know, like actually seeing what a placeholder character would look like. And I don't know about anybody else, but I haven't seen this before, anything like this, you know, like especially for a fighting game. It's just, I don't know. I think it's a hell of a lot of fun and just a really, really cool blast from the past.
Yeah. And man, don't you just, when you see something like that, you're like, gosh, I hope I just pick up some random piece of shit someday and it's just a mystery game that no one's ever seen before.
Oh yeah, totally. Oh my God. Like, yeah, like how cool is it? Like this guy is internet famous now forever. Like Neo Turf Masta is internet famous forever. That's just so cool.
Do you think now that he's internet famous, he's like, damn it, I should have chosen a better handle?
I don't know. I think that's a pretty good handle, especially because he's now famous for a Neo Geo game, like an unreleased Neo Geo game. You know what I mean?
Do you think that's his handle on like the Neo Geo forums or something?
I have no idea.
Probably
I have absolutely no idea. Oh, it is. It absolutely is.
Yeah.
The link on the Kotaku article goes to his forum. That's awesome.
Sweet.
Yes, very cool. So on to the update to the game from a very, very, very long time ago.
Okay, so this game is NetHack, which came out in 1987. One of the kind of original takeoffs of Rogue. So this is one of the original roguelikes.
Wow.
And it is the sequel to Hack, I believe. So it's like the sequel to Hack, which kind of knocked off, what was I saying? Rogue. So this is an old roguelike, so old that it doesn't have graphics. I mean, it has, you know.
I mean, it has ASCII graphics, right?
It has ASCII graphics, yeah.
Those are fucking graphics, man. I made ASCII games way back in the day with ZZT. Those are graphics.
I mean,
just saying.
The game itself doesn't generate, it has no graphics as part of it. It's just using graphics that are present on your computer, on everybody's computer.
I see. It has no like, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. So it's been getting updates. The last one was in 2003, so it's been 13 years. That's
crazy.
A long time. And it's just getting a new content pack, which is including some new stuff and also some community updates that are being rolled into it. And it's nuts to see the game from 1970 or 87 is still getting updated.
That is how you maintain games, right there.
Yeah.
Like AAA and modern publishers take notice. This is how you maintain a game, and this is how you earn credibility from gamers. This is awesome.
And they're updating it to make it for like ease of play. So they're changing some things that we can do custom menu colors to make it easier to sort items was one of the mentioned updates. And they're
very nice
trying to improve balance on a lot of things. So this is a game that they're still tweaking the balance on that came out. How many years ago did this come out? Almost 30 years ago?
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, and this is also free publicity for them. So again, take note. Like, you want to support your game, you want to push stuff out. And I know that this happened for Blizzard too. Like when they did this for Diablo 3 and for was it StarCraft, Warcraft? Like, it's free publicity. You know what I mean? Like, they're new people are gonna be playing this game. I'm looking at playing this game now.
Yeah.
So yeah. Good for them, man. This is awesome.
So what do you think? Is there anybody who's not doing this kind of thing that should be, who's not supporting their games?
I don't know, maybe Square shutting down, was it Final Fantasy 12?
Oh yeah.
What we talked about last time?
The last PS2 like active server.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, this is a bit more of a gray area, but Blizzard shutting down the largest vanilla WoW server in existence.
And that's too. I think that's really interesting, because the way that I'd look at that is the vanilla version of WoW is just a different game than the current one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Once you acknowledge that they're just a different game, that means that you bought a game that you just can't play anymore. World of Warcraft, or Blizzard has just said that World of Warcraft, that game that you originally bought, you're not allowed to play anymore.
Which is bullshit, by the way. I just want to say that.
Also, they've said publicly, they just go, hey, can we have classic servers? That way we can play that game that we bought and we want to play. And then they go, no, we're not doing that. And also, you don't want that. That's been their response.
Yeah, that's, God, as much as I love Blizzard, that is such bullshit. Like, that is, no, I bought that version of the game. I want to be able to play that version of the game. And this is one of like the very real downsides of licensing games instead of purchasing games, and the way that all that crap is set up legally. Because when we buy games, we don't actually own them. We're licensing them from the creators and the publishers. And this is one of this Blizzard shit that they're pulling is one of the ugly sides to that, because we don't get to determine how the game is played. They do.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a more gray area, because we're saying that it's a different game, but this is the boat problem. Oh, I can't remember. There's a problem in philosophy of the boat, where you replace each part of the boat, and when does it
at what point is it no longer the original boat?
Yeah. I can't remember what that's called. Can you?
I don't know.
So there is a little bit of a question. Like, is it a different game now? It certainly seems to be. I mean, for practical purposes, it is, because it's been changed. All the parts of the boat have been changed. It was originally a sailing ship, and now it's a tanker. So
yeah, exactly. Well, and so to be devil's advocate, to talk about Blizzard's side of this.
Yeah.
I think there is a valid concern from their perspective on regarding support, right?
Yeah.
Like people having issues and supporting the game, and problems from players, and servers are not free, right? And if the server that got shut down was technically a pirate server. It wasn't, from my understanding anyway, it wasn't a Blizzard server. It was a server that somebody set up to run the vanilla version of WoW because they wanted to play that. Now, technically, that is in direct violation of the end user license agreement. And again, an MMO is a different type of a game than, like, let's say a Mario, right? A huge, like, the game is built on the server, and then you play based on all the stats that you get from that.
And it's based on having that community too. There's always a fear of splitting that base up.
Yeah.
And then and then losing your community and screwing up your own game because you lost players to yourself.
Yeah. Well, and then at what point does the fragmentation become so severe that it's just unmanageable? You know, because like it makes sense if in the vanilla version of the game, like, well, I like this version of the game. Well, what about, you know, patch version 1.135?
And,
you know, what about people who like that specific version?
Was running through all the patches in real time.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, so it started out as just vanilla WoW, and then after the amount of time before the first patch, it applied the first patch, and then so on and so forth. So it was giving the same content kind of updates that original WoW got through the life cycle of original WoW.
Oh, well, that seems kind of pointless.
I mean, but it means that they're updating and releasing like the new dungeons and the new dungeon cycles that WoW got when it was out, which was a big part of like opening the gate to whatever and being the first person to get through this dungeon and stuff like that.
Oh, I see what you mean. So like if you started playing WoW 11 years in, you could still get that first run through experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are occasionally WoW would open a new server and you'd get to do those things again. I mean, not if you were a new player. If you were a veteran player, you got to do those things again because you could do it in super fast. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Because you knew all the systems and the shortcuts and stuff. Yeah. Well, and this is interesting because it's like this is where games being art gets messy because Blizzard is the artist. They work very, very hard on all this. Just like oh crap, what was the retro game that we're talking about that started this? The guy the update? NetHack. So, like, in one sense, NetHack and Blizzard are very, very similar in that, you know, they're both art, right? And the people who made them both clearly care about them very much. I mean, that's why NetHack is still getting updates, and that's why, you know, Blizzard still clearly cares about WoW.
Well,
they're just going about it in different ways.
How much claim do they have on the original World of Warcraft? My impression is that there is basically 0 people still at Blizzard who worked on the original World of Warcraft.
Well, that's where like intellectual property comes in because Blizzard owns the intellectual property for WoW, not the specific people that worked on it.
Yeah, but I mean the idea that like they're responsible for that art and they're responsible for if they don't think that old version is good enough or they don't think that that's what they want to represent. Like from a moral standpoint, do they like legally they obviously own that, but can they make that judgment on something that they didn't make?
Well, would it matter if WoW wasn't so popular? Like for example, NetHack, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about it now because it got an update. However, outside of that, how many people still play or think about NetHack? If NetHack was as popular as WoW is now, and the developers of NetHack started making changes, if it was flipped where people were still playing NetHack and it was a really big deal, and NetHack went ahead and made all these changes, and let's say they forced them on all the players who were playing the game who had gotten used to the way that it had been working for the last 13 years, and they didn't want these balance tweaks, what would the situation be like then? See, in this situation, we see NetHack as the good guy, and we're kind of seeing Blizzard as the bad guy with WoW. But the reason for that is because of the impact that we see these changes having on people and the perception of that. So we perceive the updates that NetHack is getting as being very good. We perceive Blizzard's behavior as being very bad. But why?
Because Blizzard controls your access to it. So, I mean, if you have an old version of NetHack, you still have that old version of NetHack. And I'm fairly certain you can go to NetHack's website and download old versions of NetHack.
Would that be a sustainable model at the number of players that Blizzard has for WoW, though?
Maybe. It depends. I mean, they certainly...
And see, that's the question.
Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of the difference. World of Warcraft is specifically saying, you could have this, but we're going to prevent you from doing it because we own that property and we don't want to see anybody else use it, which it's a piece of property that they're not using and they haven't used in many, many years that other people want to play, that they're just not letting people play. So it feels kind of ill-spirited of them to shut down that server.
I totally agree. I just think that it's not as it's not as straightforward as I would like to believe that it is.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot more nuance and that it's much more gray than I would like it to be. Because honestly, I want to be like, oh, Blizzard's terrible and they're evil, and the NetHack developers are awesome for still supporting this game. But I don't think it's as simple as that.
Yeah. I can kind of see it, but
I think that's it.
Yeah. All right.
So yay for supporting retro games, and boo-ish for Blizzard being kind of douches, sort of, even though it's maybe understandable. I don't know.
Yeah, it's their right, but also we don't have to like it, even if they're allowed to.
There you go. Yes, yeah. Exactly. Yes. Awesome. Okay, so with that under our belt, we are going to move on to the next topic. In a joint announcement at the One World Observatory in New York City today, Milner and Stephen Hawking unveiled Breakthrough Starshot, a $100 million research and engineering program seeking to lay the foundations for an eventual interstellar voyage.
The first step of this program involves building light-propelled nanocrafts that can travel at relativistic speeds, up to 20% the speed of light.
At such high velocities, the robotic spacecraft would travel past Pluto in 3 days and reach our nearest neighboring star system, Alpha Centauri, in just over 20 years.
For the first time in human history, we can do more than just gaze at the stars, Milner said. We can actually reach them. So that was our Egghead News Division, trapped tragically in the 1920s, reading out today's news stories for you.
That's right.
So that was our first news story, which is about the thing that you're going to tell us about, Brian.
Yes. Yeah, so this is really, really cool. So Yuri Milner has funded this Breakthrough Starshot program, which Stephen Hawking and a team of scientists are going to head up, which is going to build and launch a series of, like the news segment said, a series of nanobots or nanoships that are going to travel to Alpha Centauri. And they're looking to do this within the next 20 years. So that means, according to their goal, at most 20 years from now, they're going to launch these ships. And then 20 years after that, the ships will arrive at Alpha Centauri, which means in 40 years or less, if everything goes according to plan, we will be getting telemetry data from another star system.
It's probably out further than that.
I mean, even if it is, it's like if I'm alive when this happens, when we start, and even before Alpha Centauri, like once you get into true interstellar space with these things, holy crap. So going to Pluto in 3 days, getting beyond Pluto in 3. Yeah.
Did we mention that these are powered? It said photon drives in our news quote, but this is in
lasers.
Fact lasers. So it's a solar sail that then you shoot lasers at to propel it.
Which is fucking awesome. Oh my god, how cool is that?
Presumably orbital lasers? I don't think it said that in the article, but any laser from the ground would have a lot of scattering due to the atmosphere.
Yeah. Well, and we'd only be able to launch it for like 3 seconds at most a day. With the rotation of the Earth.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure what they're going to do is they're going to build a platform, like you said, an orbiting platform that would shoot these lasers.
Yeah.
And what's most incredible is, according to Yuri, most of the technology that they need is already available, and the technology that isn't available is not that far off.
Yeah, I'm not sure about for the size of those. I have questions about the ability for them to send transmissions back all the way from Alpha Centauri, but who knows? It might be that the array of them acts as a dish to send information back.
Yeah.
Because there are some like array telescopes and things like that.
Well, yeah, and so the newest, I forget the name of it offhand, but the newest telescope that they're building right now is exactly that. It's an array of small telescopes that actually spans across 2 different countries and 2 different continents, but it acts as a single radio telescope. So yeah. And I mean, there are so many, like we haven't had a deep space, satellite since Voyager 2.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, Voyager's still there.
Well, true. But I mean, like the newest one that's deep space that's still operating is Voyager 2. And that's technology that, I mean, the original PlayStation was way beyond what was powering that thing. So the technology that we could get even in machines this small, in ships this small, will just be staggering, especially when you take into account that we're not talking about technology now. We're talking about technology likely that we'll have in 5 years, maybe 10 years, is what they'll actually be putting into these craft. So it's going to be beyond what we even have now. And we have now 4K cameras that are so small that they fit inside our phones.
Yeah, they fit on a drone and fly around with stabilizing equipment, you know?
Yeah. So it's just like the amount of data that we're going to be able to get from these things, again, even long before they get to Alpha Centauri, is just going to be incredible. I mean, once they hit the Oort cloud, what will we be getting from, I mean, that'll be amazing. So yeah, this I think is going to be another thing that as news comes out about this, I doubt it'll be weekly, monthly basis, but as news comes out about this, we're definitely going to be tracking this.
Yeah, and they'll have to plan those routes pretty carefully if they want to fly by stuff like in the Oort cloud, because the Oort cloud is incredibly the opposite of dense.
Oh, right. Sparse. Yeah.
Sparse. Yeah. There's just very little. So you'd have to be, pretty calculated to make sure that you see something. And what else? Oh, yeah. I wanted to complain about the title of this article.
Oh, yeah. That's
because it was like, soon starships will be going to other solar systems. Like, oh, yeah.
Or not.
Yeah. No. Tiny gram-sized starships. I mean, I guess, technically, but, when you think Starship, you think people on it, which is not what
you
this
think Enterprise.
Is. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also not an interstellar starship. It's not a single interstellar starship. It's an army of very, very small starships. So, yeah. On to the next one.
All right. So the next one is an article from Ars Technica called "Facebook Bots Are Already Revolting."
Can I just say something really quick? Ars Technica? Really? Seriously? What? You're a respectable news source. What are you doing with a clickbait article like that?
Maybe we've just misunderstood. Maybe they just don't like Facebook bots. They think they're gross.
Maybe. That's fair. That's fair.
I don't know. But yeah, and it has like a picture of a Cylon on it.
Yeah,
that's the image.
Bullshit. I'm sorry. That's, yeah.
This is just an article about the ways that bots might replace traditional interfaces.
Well, and not bots as far as androids.
Yeah.
Which you would think naturally because of the Cylon that you see as the cover image. They're talking about chat bots.
Yeah, so essentially replacing things like menus, text boxes, drop downs, radio buttons, the kind of way that the internet gets information from you with a program that works in natural language.
Yeah. So basically Siri for the web, except it's typed instead of spoken.
Yeah. So you would just get in your chat and you'd say, "Hey, show me today's news." And these kind of things are very exciting and very interesting. And they make a lot of sense because it is much more natural for us to just use that kind of language. But the problem is that it has to be able to do a fair amount of like creative thought to be able to respond to those kind of questions, just beyond being able to interpret like literally what you're saying into what it needs to get. It needs to be able to think like if you ask for news articles, what kind of things does it give to you?
Yeah. So there's a key difference. Chatbots are the effectiveness of chatbots calls out a big problem with AI that every AI engine is currently struggling with, and that's the difference between natural language parsing and syntax and inference.
Yeah.
So being able to infer what someone is talking about, thinking about, saying versus being able to parse the words that they're speaking.
Yeah.
And there's a world of difference between those two things. Like natural language syntax parsing is actually extremely difficult all by itself. And then a layer above that is knowing the difference between like contextual meaning.
Yeah.
If I say that I want, the top 10 rock songs,
Yeah.
knowing that I mean music instead of mineral, that's a layer beyond syntax parsing. Inference is a whole layer beyond that.
If you say, "Show me the news," here's a link to CNN or whatever, and to show you specific articles that it thinks that you will like.
Yeah. Well, and even more than that, if you, let's say you're planning a trip, there are several stages, several things involved in that. So there would be some use to saying, show me airline prices between New York and Sydney the second week of February. Well, the systems can currently do that now. What would be really useful
is if they could make recommendations about which thing would be helpful to you.
Yeah, and I think where Facebook and Microsoft and Google want these bots to go eventually is they want you to be able to say something along the lines of, I want to take a vacation in June. Where should I go and where should I stay? And based on information that they have about me, they would know where to recommend I go. They would be able to calculate the cheapest flights, the best hotels for me to stay in, and they would be able to give me recommendations about where to go and what to do while I'm there.
Or you could say something like, I want to take a trip to Japan. When should I go? When should I plan on going?
Yeah, that's another good example.
That kind of thing, where there is a lot of creative thought in how it has to figure out. And it has to figure out based on a lot of information on you. These kind of bots are very, very interesting, but they are not exactly the same thing. Although some people certainly think that once we have bots that understand language on this level, that we will be at the point of sentient computer systems.
I think there's an argument to be made that we already have sentient computer systems now, but that's a different topic. maybe for another episode.
I don't know. I think that this is, again, like a very small bit of what will eventually be like real AI, what you think of as the real AI. And that's kind of what this headline was talking about and is just not about. And I've been reading a book called Superintelligence. And by reading, I mean listening to on Audible, which is a book about how AI superintelligence might come about and what it might mean for us, which is very interesting. And also, I find this topic hugely terrifying. AI superintelligence could destroy us entirely as a species.
We need to devote like an episode to this because I can see where thoughts like that come from. Because, I mean, this is, what Elon Musk says, what Stephen Hawking has said, Bill Gates has said the same thing, that we need to be very, very, very careful about, like, with AI, how we develop it, how we handle it, how we approach it, things like that.
I agree. I think superintelligence could be very, very dangerous. I think we're more likely to get just intelligences that are less than or about ours first, though. I'm not sure that they'll explode quite as much as we think they might.
Well, yeah, and that specifically, so the danger of a system, of an AI system, doesn't necessarily come from its level or complexity of intelligence. The danger from an AI system, just like any other system, comes from the power that we grant it.
But there's a thought experiment about super intelligent AIs, and the thinking is basically that if it is intelligent enough and it understands human language and thought enough, there is essentially nothing it cannot convince someone to do for it.
Oh, so it's the what's that movie? Ex Machina.
Oh, is that the plot of that? I haven't actually seen that yet.
Yeah, it's really good.
The thought being that it can lie, it can do whatever it wants, it can press all the levers inside your head that it needs to make you give it what it needs.
So the issue that I have with that, we are capable of the same thing. We cannot create something that we are not capable of ourselves. We can create things that we are not physically capable of. We can create machines that fly. We can create machines that cause destruction or that are capable of building things in ways that we are not. However, those machines do not operate separate from us. Or, I'm sorry, separate from our will. We have to tell them what to do. We cannot build the system more capable and more complex than ourselves.
Well,
because we simply, and this is a philosophical argument, or a philosophical debate, but we can't build anything that is beyond us. We as a species can build something that is beyond me as an individual, but we as a species cannot build something beyond what we are capable of as a species. And I think that's where the danger and the fear comes in, because we as a species are capable of destroying the planet.
Yeah, I think most of these AI questions mostly come about with seed AIs, where the AIs are going to start building themselves at a point. And then I do think, though, that like this kind of thing, they have to know enough about human thought to be able to press those levers.
Well, and we have to know enough about that to begin with. And I think that we have a long way to go before we're to a place where we can program machines to understand our thought the way that we do.
Yeah, they're going to have to start doing their own research at some point if they're going to be successful in that, because we don't have enough. Like if an AI showed up tomorrow, we don't necessarily have enough knowledge currently for it to do that, because its knowledge would only be what is currently available to it.
Right.
So that would be, which is why I say I kind of think that we'll end up with less than human level intelligences and human level intelligences much sooner than we'll end up with super intelligences, and we'll probably be stuck with those kind of our level things for a lot longer than we might think we would be. But very interesting topic nonetheless. I love it. It's very, very cool.
I mean, it's science fiction, but it's real life at this point. Like, science fiction is no longer something that's like out there and something that's unattainable. I mean, we are having to grapple with the possibility and the ramifications of building machines that function as people. That's fucking science fiction. I mean, that's like, you don't get any more sci-fi than that.
One of my favorite quotes about cyberpunk is that cyberpunk stopped being a genre and it went away because that's just our lives now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're building ships to go to another star system.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I mean, you know,
cyberpunk was all about the like fact that how imperfect society is, even when our brains are constantly networked together. And we have that now. We're networked together. We put part of our brain in our phone. Not literally, but nearly literally.
I was just about as close as you can get to literally without having a chunk of, gray matter sitting on our phone. Yeah.
And we still have the same amount of like, it hasn't solved our problems. It hasn't been that like amazing future. It's definitely more the cyberpunk future.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, philosophically speaking, building better tools does not change humanity.
Yeah.
It just means that humanity can build better tools.
And tools can help us change things, certainly. And I think that's the thought behind things like Star Trek, is that, our greater mastery of things means that we can like eliminate hunger and poverty and that sort of thing.
Yeah, again, man, we need to do like a philosophical sci-fi episode, because there's a
coming
as much
soon.
As I love Star Trek,
not the science episode, the sci-fi episode.
Yes, I think this is good for this topic. There are some really cool things coming up. Well, cool / terrifying things / mundane things that will probably end up being really fucking annoying, because I imagine that these messenger bots will be about as useful as the automated
phone systems.
Yes, exactly. For a very
also,
long
they'll
time.
just know a bunch about you, so they'll be like, "Hey, you should spend some money on this thing that I really, really know that you want." And you're like,
"That's right.
Shit, I do want that, but I also don't want to spend money." But it'll know, and it'll keep reminding you. Right. It'll throw it up on Facebook. Fucking Amazon already does this. I look at something on Amazon, then it's just like showing it to me constantly.
Oh yeah,
on every website. God. All right. Anyway, let's move on to our next topic.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about some possible innovations and major changes to the way that we watch movies.
Maybe not. I mean, we're going to talk about it. Nothing may change, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Sorry, go ahead. You introduce the first segment.
So at the beginning of the week, there was a story that came out from Polygon, and a lot of places reported it, but where I saw it was from Polygon, saying that AMC Theatres may allow cell phone use during movies in order to court millennials.
Yeah.
And of course, my response to this and the post that I had to the Egghead Anarchy Facebook page was no.
And with the words like, millennials, they can't stop looking at their phones long enough to watch a film, which is not exactly a flattering way to court millennials by insulting them.
Yeah. Oh God, just everything about this was so terrible. Yeah.
I saw a lot of, I'm a millennial and also go fuck yourself. Yes, I can put my phone down. What do you think I am? Like glued to it?
Yeah.
No, it's convenient sometimes.
Oh God. Yeah.
And still watch a film. Holy shit, calm down.
Yeah. So I gotta say, to their credit, I actually, I'm a Stubbs member. And there are several things that AMC has done throughout the years that I really have a lot of respect for.
What is Stubbs?
Oh, Stubbs is just AMC's loyalty program. You earn points and stuff like that, and it's cool. I like it. I've been a member for several years now, and overall, I think it's a really cool thing. For example, when AMC went public, when they IPO'd a few years ago, they actually sent out an email to all of their Stubbs members, giving them a chance to purchase stock before they went public as a way of saying thank you for supporting them, like when they were a private company, which I thought was a really cool move.
Yeah.
And so I got an email from AMC Let me just double check. When was it? Oh, April 5th. Was this yesterday? Holy crap. Yeah, this was yesterday. Wow. So I got an email from AMC yesterday in response to all these news articles that were posted. And I'll just read part of that email right now.
And this email was sent to you because you're a Stubbs member?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This email was sent to me because I'm a Stubbs member. Yeah. So the email says, during the past few days, you may have heard media reports about another idea AMC Theatres was considering, testing whether some moviegoers might want texting allowed in a small selection of our theaters. Unlike the many AMC advancements that you have applauded, we have heard loud and clear that this is a concept our audience does not want. In this age of social media, we get feedback from you almost instantaneously, and as such, we are constantly listening. Accordingly, just as instantaneously, this is an idea that we have relegated to the cutting room floor. With your advice in hand, there will be no texting allowed in any of the auditoriums at AMC Theatres. Not today, not tomorrow, and not in the foreseeable future. I thought this was really cool. One, because they addressed the issue and the idea directly. And I mean, there's some, marketing speak at the beginning of the email and at the end of the email, and that's fine. But they just speak very honestly about it. And I do know, I've gotten several emails like this about things that AMC is trying out and ideas and things. And in fact, their dine-in theaters, like the one that we have here in St. Louis, that was something that they tested, that they piloted a long time ago. And they sent out emails about that as well. So I think it was cool that they responded to this. And then, of course, later on in the day, I started seeing news sources reporting exactly what I saw in this email.
I think it seemed like it wasn't really that formed of an idea yet, considering that they had no mention of how they were going to accommodate cell phones in theaters.
Yeah.
Like, they were just kind of like, yeah, maybe we'll accommodate cell phones in theaters. And then everybody was like, nope. And they're like, never mind, we'll just drop that right away without even doing any more thought into that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what would additional accommodation for cell phones look like?
See, that's the thing. I like, because honestly, if people want to do this now, they do it anyway. You know what I mean? I mean, the only real difference that I could see would be them not having that message at the beginning of the movie saying, please silence your cell phones and don't use your cell phones during the film.
I kind of feel like, because occasionally I want to pull out my cell phone and just look at what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how long have I been in this movie? That's generally not a great sign if I'm watching a movie and I'm like, I just want to look at a clock and know how long this is and how much longer I have to suffer. God. But I was wondering, what kind of things could they implement that would make it less disruptive for me to take out my phone for a second? Obviously sound would be disruptive, but a brighter theater would mean that my screen wouldn't be as disruptive to other people.
That's a good point. That's true.
Is it things like that they're looking at? Or are they just whatever, everybody get out your theater and bug the person next to you, or get out your phone and bug the person next to you with it and no one will care anymore?
Yeah, see, I don't really know. And this is actually kind of a good segue into an experience that I had Thursday at the AMC Dine-In Theater that I was just talking about.
Yeah.
And it was a really bad experience. And this really got me thinking about movie going in general. So years ago when the AMC, the West Olive Dine-In 16 Theater, I think is what it's called. I went there just because I wanted to see a movie, and I happened to be there the first day that they had opened after remodeling all of their cinemas to be these dine-in, they have the recliner seats and all that kind of stuff. And at that point, it was really cool. The whole experience was awesome. The tickets weren't that much more expensive. The food was good. The service was excellent. All the waiters, every time I went in there, they were just super positive and respectful of when they came back. They seemed to know at what point in the movie they should bring back the bill so that it wouldn't be terribly disruptive to my viewing experience.
They bring it back during the film, not just at the end?
Yeah, that's kind of a bit of foreshadowing too. So, yeah. So as the years have gone on, I've seen the quality of service at this theater decline steadily, to the point that I was at the theater watching The Jungle Book, which is an excellent film, with my kids on Thursday. And I'm going to have to go back and watch the movie again at a different theater because the experience was so distracting that for at least the first third of the film, I just couldn't concentrate on the movie at all. And part of the reason was because of other moviegoers, and AMC really can't do a whole lot about that on some level.
I mean, they can ask people to leave,
which they totally should have done. But a deeper problem was the server. So the issue is that before the movie started, the server was, I could tell she was trying to be helpful to the people sitting directly behind us. And she was explaining things and the menu and how everything worked. And that was fine. And she was talking at a normal speaking volume, and that was not a problem at all. And then the movie started. This was not when the previews were going. This is when the movie was going. And while the movie was playing, the server was still speaking at a normal speaking volume. She wasn't whispering. She wasn't trying to keep her voice down. She was using a normal speaking volume. And so were the patrons. So they were just, at this point, they were also having just a regular conversation. They weren't even talking about the menu. They were just having a regular conversation about things. Then when the server left, these people just kept talking. One of the things that I like about this theater is that the audio is really well balanced. It's not too loud. It's not so loud that it hurts like some of the theaters in town are. It's good. However, because it wasn't so incredibly loud, when these people were talking, I couldn't hear what the people in the movie were saying, or it was difficult to focus on what they were saying.
That sounds just the worst.
Oh, it's so bad. And it didn't stop. Every time the server came back, she would do this. She would talk in a normal speaking voice, and it didn't stop there. So we got our food, and it was, I don't know, maybe like right around the middle of the movie, but in a very, very tense, very dramatic scene, the server came back and, gave us the bill. And she stood there and waited like she expected me to pull out my credit card right then to pay for the bill, which is not what they typically do. They'll typically drop the bill off and then leave it there, and they'll come back a few minutes later, like maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. Again, kind of when there's a lull in the film. And they'll ask for it then.
That's not what anybody does anywhere.
Anywhere, exactly. Not even in a regular restaurant. So she stood there and I was like, what? What are you? And I just looked at her like, what are you doing? What are you waiting for? And she gave me this really annoyed look and then kind of huffed and turned and walked away. And I was like, is this for real? Is she serious? And then she came back about 5 minutes later and she cleared her throat and just stood there. And I was like, what? So, and even Aiden and Yasmin were getting uncomfortable at this point. And Yasmin looked at me and she's like, Daddy, are you going to pay her? And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is incredible.
I'm still here.
Yes, the movie isn't even done. So I'm
not going anywhere. I'm watching a film. If this were a restaurant and they bring you the check, you're like, nah, I'm sitting here. We're gonna order something. We're gonna order dessert or something.
We're gonna talk. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna do whatever the fuck we want to do. Yeah, unbelievable. So I pulled out my card and my Stubbs card and I gave it to her. And then she came back. And when she came back after having run my card, she was super nice. And I was like, of course, yeah, okay. Here's kind of the clincher of the whole thing. I didn't even go and talk to management afterwards to let them know what had happened or try to get a refund or anything like that, because I've done that in the past. Because I've actually had not experiences this bad, but I've had bad experiences at the theater before. And I've gone out and I've talked to management, and the problem is that not only has the quality of the service, like servers and stuff, gone down, the quality of everything, even management, has gone down to the point that I didn't even want to talk to management after the movie. I just wanted to get out of the theater.
Yeah.
And so something that I wanted to bring up last week on the podcast that we didn't have time to talk about is a new product/service that may be coming out soon that may actually address every single problem I just listed. Maybe.
I mean,
and on one hand, I'm super excited about this. On the other hand, I have a lot of doubts and a lot of reservations. So now that I've kind of got my gripe session out, and I've had a chance to complain, Alex will now talk about this product/service, and then we'll talk about it for a minute to see how this may address what I just talked about.
All right. So coming out, maybe not coming out, being proposed right now to the huge number of people that would have to okay it, is a service that would allow you to get a movie that is currently in theaters and rent it and watch it at home.
The same day and the same date that it's released in cinemas.
Yeah, and this would be a specific set-top box. You'd pay $150 for the set-top box. It would connect to your TV, and then for any movie you got, you'd be $50.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have 48 hours to watch it, and it's for a rental, like a single viewing.
Yeah, now there's a couple important things about that $50. Because when I first read about this, I was like, $50? Are you fucking kidding me? No way. Just immediately, out of hand, done. However, the reason that I think this has a really good shot at least going into production and at least, making it out the door, whether or not it'll succeed is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But it's because of how that money is split up.
Well,
with the $50, you get 2 tickets to a local cinema
for that film that you've already seen. That's kind of redundant. That's just they're trying to sweet talk movie theaters into not trying to block them on this kind of thing.
The Variety article wasn't, I don't think, too clear about whether the tickets were for that movie or not. And I read another piece that was talking about it that said, like, after this Variety article came out, that said that it's not just to that movie, it's to any movie. And the reason for that, yeah, exactly. The reason for that is that cinemas make no money on movie ticket sales at all. That's not where they make money. That's not where they make profit. They make profit on concessions. So the idea is that if I pay $50 and then I get tickets to go to a cinema, well, they're not making money off that anyway. They're going to get reimbursed from, I forget what the percentage breakdown is, but the cinema gets a portion of the $50, roughly equivalent to the ticket prices anyway. So they're covered. And then when I'm at the theater, the idea is that I buy concessions, and that's where the cinema makes money.
Let's real fast break down how much it generally, like, let's break down that $50, because I know the last time I went to the theater, it was 2 people and it cost $39. So it was like a large popcorn and a drink was like $13.
Oh God, yeah.
And the movie tickets were about $13 a piece.
Right.
So for 2 people, and we could assume, let's say you're not getting concessions. You're very savvy. You're just not picking up concessions there. It's $13 a person, and that's in our area. It might be a little bit less, but in some areas it's going to be more, so that's a good medium line. That means that it's going to be, like 4 people is the cost of this rental. So the rental is what it would cost about 4 people to go to the film, but also it's since it's in your house, you're not paying for additional people.
Very true.
So it seems like it's built really for you to have friends over and see a film.
Yes.
Like you'd all go out to a film together, you'd have this, and you'd see it in your house.
Yeah.
But it does also mean there are some other costs associated with it, I think. So it kind of seems like a bad price, and then you kind of go, well, I spent a lot going to the movie theater. But then also, you need to get the value out of it, you need to have a setup that's worth watching it on.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that kind of home theater system is also going to factor into that cost.
Yeah.
So there's like a big initial investment on top of the $150, because you need a home theater system worth watching a bunch of movies in, if this is going to replace your going to the theater. So
I think the market for this is relatively small.
Yeah. I think people who own a home theater, like on MTV Cribs, who have a separate room in their house that is just a theater, this is amazing for that person.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I have a home theater.
Yeah.
And I have a pretty nice home theater. And I mean, I don't have it's not a separate dedicated room, but it's a section of my basement that's dedicated to a home theater.
Yeah.
And realistically, as long as there are some common sense things, like as long as I can pause the movie when I've rented it, which should be a no-brainer, but I'll wait to see if that's an actual feature that's there. But like if some of those things are present, I will absolutely do this.
Yeah.
Because like for me, like you mentioned 4 people, like Aiden and Yasmin. So when we went to see The Jungle Book, all totaled with everything, taxes, tickets, everything, it was $80.
You got 2 kids, so
right.
And that also means you're pretty much getting concessions too, right?
Well, and not even, I guess, the dine-in theater, the price for their meal is roughly the same price as concessions elsewhere. It's just much higher quality food. But yeah, so I mean, it's, $10 ticket plus, 15 or so ish dollars for a meal, maybe a little bit more. You add taxes on that, you're at $80.
Yeah.
So for somebody in my situation, not only will I be saving when everything is all totaled up, maybe $10, $15, right? But it'll be less than it would be going to a movie theater, and I don't ever have to worry about going through a situation like what I went through on Thursday. I don't have to worry about other theater goers being annoying.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about, driving somewhere or having, like, my kids having to go to the bathroom. Like, Yasmin actually had to use the restroom in the middle of the film, and so she just missed, like, 3 minutes of the movie.
Oh, my God. To be able to pause and go pee would be amazing in a film.
Right?
Gosh. Batman v Superman, the last, 45 minutes of that film. Yes. I had to pee so bad. And that was a long, long film. So
yes.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think like this, I don't see this like radically changing movie going as we know it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of like VR is for games. I think it will be, if it can succeed being a niche product, then I think this will absolutely be a success. And again, assuming that, or I don't know how to say this. If they can get some of the basic things right, being able to pause, making the purchasing experience something, decent, then I'm super excited for this, and I may never go to a cinema ever again.
I don't know. It seems cool. I think the ask is high still. And I think they're going to have so much trouble getting theaters to sign on to this, producers to sign on to this.
Steven Spielberg, Paramount, J.J. Abrams, there's already a lot of people that have signed on to this and said it's a good idea.
Well, like Regal Theaters won't have any film in their theaters that doesn't sign an exclusive 90-year or 90-day playing in theaters. Anything that is out before that period, Regal won't even show that film.
Well, then it just becomes an issue of, muscle, basically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, then it's like mafia tactics.
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what that is. Cinemas are not making a whole lot of money. Like, they're not in a position to be dictating terms with something like this. And in general, if they're intelligent, they're going to look at other industries, and any product or service that is reasonably well designed and reasonably easy to use that democratizes and decentralizes the industry wins.
Yeah.
Look at iTunes. Look at the iPod. Look at anything regarding media that makes it easier to get, that brings it closer to home, and that makes the experience more personal.
Mm-hmm.
And that product or service always wins. It always does well.
Yeah.
And it always beats the current status quo. And that's what I see this set-top box being. If the user experience is good, hell, even if it's decent, people are going to do this. And the asking price is high now, and it's a lot of it is because they have all these people to please.
Yeah.
But in 5 years, 10 years, when they no longer give a crap about cinemas, and they can cut that portion out and they can drop the price down, or they can even work out deals with independent production houses that would never go to theater, and they can say, okay, so for Infinity War Part 2 it's $50, but for this independent film over here it's only $10 because we have so many fewer people in the pipeline. Well, then there you go.
I think there's like zero chance that that's going to happen because it is a wildly more complicated thing than just like Netflix. Like if you're an independent movie producer who wants to produce something that is just going to go to people's houses and not see like a theater release, why not just Netflix? And even if you're just making films and they're not seeing an exclusive theater release, why not just Netflix? It makes a lot more sense. I think that's part of why this is not going to take off, is because theaters are dying, but what they're going to be replaced by is not this. And when you see something like Netflix putting out quality entertainment that's just to your house immediately, like Beasts of No Nation, that was a really good film, and it's just on Netflix. You just get it from Netflix. It just makes more sense. And there's too many people to sign off for this. I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea, but I don't see it being successful.
I guess. We shall see.
Yeah. Anything else on this one?
I think that's it. I think we're good.
All right. Well, on to the next topic. All right, welcome to the Deep Space Nine segment.
Yes.
Where we talk about how we like Deep Space Nine. And this is our nice feel nice segment, because we just recorded a segment about Gamergate.
Oh, God.
That went really long and was kind of a mess, and we decided to trash it. Look for a future episode that will incorporate that but be less of a mess and probably just be a standalone episode once we've given it some more consideration and put some more thought into it. But for now, we're going to do something that we like, that is happy time, and that is Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
Yes.
So you've just been watching it for like the first time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I've watched the entire series at least 3 times, and probably many episodes more than that. So why don't you start us off?
Yes. So it took me forever to watch this show. I remember my friend Ben, when we were both in high school, he was like, he would not stop trying to get me to watch this show. Like, just incessantly. He was like, you need to watch the show. You need to watch it. It's so good. You need to watch the show. And I was like, what the fuck? It doesn't even have like a starship. They're on a space station. It's a Star Trek. They need to have like an Enterprise. There needs to be a ship. They need to be going through space. It's dumb. And I was so wrong. I was absolutely dead wrong. So I think it was like on a whim. I was just like, well, what is there I want to watch? There's 5,000 things I want to watch, but Deep Space Nine is on Netflix, so I'm going to start watching it. And I gotta say, it's so good. There's a lot of people that I've heard that say that they think DS9 is the best of all the Star Trek series.
Yeah.
And I can definitely see why.
I am not sure if I agree with that. It is definitely one of the top 2. Top 2 are TNG, or here, I'll just give you my ranking. TNG and Deep Space Nine. I'm not sure where to place them. They're both really high. And then TOS, and then Enterprise, and then Voyager.
Yeah, I would only I would have a minor difference with that. So, yeah, I would say, I mean, it depends on, I guess, like the specific definition of best show. I think is what would change DS9 and TNG for me. And so I'll say, so they're interchangeably number one. And then beneath that for me is Enterprise, and then TOS, and then Voyager.
And we don't like Voyager.
Yeah, we don't like Voyager.
I think Voyager is most like the original series in that it's kind of hit or miss. Some episodes are good. Some episodes are not good. Some episodes are really just slow and sort of uninteresting. And maybe they have a character who's really not interesting and I don't care about, or
Well, to me in general it just feels like it tries too hard. Like, especially, like, I couldn't get past season 1. I've tried watching it 4 separate times, and I couldn't get past season 1. And for me, the problem is that it really feels like the show tries too hard. I mean, it's like, hey, we have a female captain, and we have, look at all the whatever we did for casting, and that's so awesome, and we're going to, mix up, Klingons and whatever race, and blah, 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 and we're being so original and creative, and it's like, what? I mean, every other show did that, but they didn't throw it in my face.
And meanwhile, many of the cast members are openly critical of the scripts and are not having a good time. And
yeah, that, I never thought about it, but that's a good point. Yeah, it's like nobody on that show feels like they're having a good time. Yeah. Whereas on Deep Space Nine, especially like as the show goes on, it just seems like the cast is having fun. You know what I mean? Like the people making the show are really invested in it. Yeah. And I will say I think the show definitely peaks midway through season 6. Basically when they're spoilers for this whole thing. This whole thing is really it's been out forever. Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't know, with the way the show is set up, I don't know how big an impact spoilers would have anyway, because everything is executed so well. So, like, for example, I think the show peaked when they were forced to leave DS9 during the war with the Dominion. That whole sequence and them coming back, that was awesome. Having said that, now that you know that they leave DS9, like there's still so much more to that whole storyline than just the fact that they leave. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think you can ruin like individual things. It's hard to ruin the arc overall. Yeah. And I don't know. It's pretty old, and some things you're like, so what? They leave Deep Space Nine. They come back. The show's called Deep Space Nine. It's not like they're gonna kill Deep Space Nine forever. It's it's like Superman. They're not gonna kill Superman.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah.
Although they do kill Jadzia Dax. Spoiler alert.
But they don't kill Dax.
See, they don't kill Dax.
And I was explaining this to a friend of mine, how Jadzia Dax has this relationship with the doctor, Dr. Bashir, and Dr. Bashir is so hot for her, but she just does not care. She's not into him. And then she eventually falls in love with Worf.
Right.
And then they have this really intense relationship. And then Jadzia dies. And the symbiote inside her, which contains all of her memories and all the memories of all its past hosts, gets put into this new person, Ezri Dax. And then she gains all the memories of all these past hosts, but she's not Jadzia Dax anymore.
Right.
She's a new person. She has all the new old memories, but she's still a new person.
Yeah.
But so she ends up falling in love with Bashir, but Worf is still around. Worf is still there. And to Worf, like, it's almost like she died, but she's not. She's still there, and now she's with someone else. And I was explaining this whole situation, and it was the moment where I was like, oh my God, this is incredibly soap opera-y.
Oh God, yeah.
So soap opera-y. Also, I love it. Apparently, the only thing that you have to do to a soap opera to make me on board with it is put it in space and add some science. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like any serialized dramatic show on TV is a soap opera. I mean, really.
Yeah, and it's a level of like contrivance of that situation too. But they spend so long like setting it up and establishing like what it means to be a symbiote host.
Right. Well, and yeah, I mean that's the thing is like in the universe, it's not really a stretch. Like it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not like they're reaching for something the way that all this stuff is set up and the way that it works.
And it's stuff that they set up and then later on they were just like, oh, we got an opportunity to do something with all the setup we did. And they used the lore that they had set up to do something interesting.
Yeah.
Same thing with Bashir later on. which I've heard some people be critical of, that they decide later on that he's whatchamacallit?
The genetically enhanced?
Yes, that he's genetically enhanced. Like Khan from the previous series. Not as much, but he's been genetically enhanced because...
But he still shouldn't be allowed in Starfleet because he's genetically enhanced. Yeah.
And also it's illegal that it was done to him at all. But that he had birth defects that made him less intelligent than everyone else.
Yeah.
And so his parents chose to break the law to give their son a better life. And that kind of makes sense because there's a lot of points previous to that where he does something completely improbable.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's like, I've just cured this disease that everybody else couldn't cure. There's a lot of moments like that.
Yeah.
Where whatever. But then when it comes around and it's like, oh yeah, he's genetically engineered to be way smarter than everyone else. You're like, that explains a lot about previous things that have happened in the show.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely honest, if he wasn't genetically enhanced, I think I would have hated his character because I would have been like, that's just fucking lazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I'm super brilliant. And yeah, I solved this virus on this planet that nobody else could have solved for, 100 years. People tried to work on this for multiple generations and nobody could do it. But I did it in the space of 45 minutes. Like, that's, no. But making him genetically, and I thought that added a whole dimension to his character too, because then there were the episodes where he, would work with the other genetically enhanced people, like the people who had like the social disorders and things.
Yeah.
Like that had the genetic enhancements, but they had something that went wrong. And it was just,
they're autistic.
Yeah, basically.
They're very much, not all of them, but
I think that they displayed like different symptoms like on the autism spectrum, right? Like there was the one, I forget the names. There was one girl who was like completely non-responsive, right? She didn't really interact with the outside world at all. Then and they all had some sort of a tick, and they had like an extremely exaggerated personality trait. But what I thought was and there's so many really powerful things about this show that I think even now are really ballsy to put in a TV show. And that is that, these people, like, they had problems. They had real, sincere problems. And they were still valuable human beings.
Especially, what's his name? Colin Mockery.
Oh, the Twitch guy? The guy who's always, like, biting
No. I meant just in the show in general. Colin Mockery, who plays Chief O'Brien. Like, everything.
Wait, Colm Meaney?
Oh, that is what I mean. Who am I? Oh, shoot. Yeah, Colm Meaney. Sorry. Not the comedian from Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Is he? I feel like he was on that show.
I don't think so.
I don't know who he would be. Anyway, Colm Meaney.
Yeah, Chief O'Brien. Sorry, I messed it up. Dang. He has so many bad things happen to him throughout the whole course of the show.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everything
Holy
bad.
Crap.
And he has constant, like, problems with his marriage.
Yeah.
And the stress that his job and the situations that they're in are putting on his marriage.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty.
Yeah.
It's rough. And the reason they did that to him is because it grounds the show. He's the guy with a family, and you can see how grounded in reality, like, the situations are. Because the like war that's happening, it's not just like a fantasy war that's happening. You can see how it's affecting this guy's marriage and his life and his relationship with his kid who he doesn't get to see. It's like really serious, and that makes it so much more like tense.
Well, and then the whole character of Jadzia Dax throughout the entire show, I don't know if the writers intended this to be the case or not, but it just speaks so much to issues of like transgenderism and like sexuality versus gender and all sorts of things like that, and like just identity in general. In ways that I think are way ahead of the time when the show came out, and even to some extent now.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, the fact that Cisco always refers to a woman as old man, and like that's fine, and she's okay with that because that's part of her identity. And the fact that yes, she's a woman, and yes, she's feminine, but you know what? She can go toe to toe with Worf with a bat lift.
And it's never really too much of a problem for anybody. Like, sometimes new characters will be like, wait, what? You were a father before? And she's like, yeah, I've had lots of kids, both as a mother and a father. And they're like, oh, okay then.
Yeah.
And it's always like that. They're always very like, oh, all right. There's never, it never becomes an issue.
Yeah.
Which is nice to see. You know?
Yeah, there are so many things that I think if the writing had been lazier or sloppier, like would have been plot points.
Yeah.
But in the show, it just glossed over them because it's like, you know what? No, like they're people. They're all people.
Yeah.
Like they're all humanoids. They're all equal. And the show doesn't even bother like accentuating the fact that they're all equal. They just are. And like Major Kira or Colonel Kira. She ends up like she's another example. You know what I mean? She is a deeply nuanced character, like so much strength, and like And she's a woman and she's feminine, but she's also a super badass and she's also wrong sometimes. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't fit neatly into any category for a character. Nobody on the show does. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She's part of this Star Trek cast that is progressive, but she's also like a religious conservative.
Yeah.
And she still has this place on this cast, which is new for Star Trek, especially since Gene Roddenberry did not like religion.
Yeah.
That's a type of representation that we haven't seen before. And again, even this whole show, like this show would not have existed when Gene Roddenberry was alive, because it's so heavily themed around religion and in very interesting ways, and in no way that like comes down definitively in any way on religion.
Yeah, that's something I really like.
Oh, except for maybe religious terrorists are evil. Like, I mean,
yeah,
that
I think it's
happens.
something we can all agree on. Like terrorists of any type are evil, basically. Well, and that's actually something like the language that the show uses a lot, I find to be really, really interesting.
Yeah.
They refer to Kira quite often, especially in the beginning of the series, as a terrorist.
Yes.
And they talk about all of her activity being a terrorist, and she's one of the good guys. Like, even when she was doing all that shit, she was one of the good guys. And it's like, whoa. You know, like, wow.
In the episode with Tom Riker, not William Riker, his
Definitely not.
his transporter holodeck clone.
Oh,
She even has a conversation with him where he's trying to like find the secret Cardassian base. And she's like, no, you have a ship and you're part of the Maquis. What you should be doing is blowing up everything you can find. You have the most powerful ship in this sector. You should just be wrecking havoc against the Cardassians, but you're not. You're going to get a piece of intel. It's because you want to be a hero, and that's not what this is. The Maquis are terrorists. They blow things up. You don't understand what you're in. I know. I was a terrorist.
Yeah.
Like, she even talks about that. Like, that was their method, was to create that terror. But they're not, like, the Bajorans aren't really in the wrong for that either in this situation.
Yeah, exactly.
They were terrorists, but they were terrorists against people who were enslaving them and killing them and occupying their planet.
Well, yeah, and I mean the story uses in the context of the Bajorans, it uses the label of terrorism and freedom fighters interchangeably.
Yeah.
Which I find just, I mean, that's such a gutsy thing to do, and because the writing is so good, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Like there's never a point in the show where I'm like, oh, that's no. That's no. It makes it's totally plausible and it's totally believable. And then like another character that I really, really love, God, why am I blanking on his name now? The Cardassian, he's in he's
Gul Dukat?
Gul
Or are we
Dukat.
talking about Garrick?
Well, both.
Okay.
But Gul Dukat, oh my God. Like especially toward the end of the show, like once they're just like, no, he's just fucking evil. Like he's just absolutely. And then once they explain that he is evil, in the episode where he's like the head of the cult, and like in the whole beginning of the episode, you're like, oh, maybe he really has changed. I don't. And then you're like, oh God, oh no, oh God.
But also they spend so much time taking the Cardassians, and they have like a lot of bad traits, and they've done a lot of bad stuff. But they also spend a lot of time developing like some sympathetic Cardassian characters, and even Cardassian characters who aren't sympathetic but have positive traits. And it's almost a consistent positive trait that all the Cardassians care deeply about their families.
Yeah.
And it's just absolutely a rule of Cardassian society that you care. Your family is super important. And they go into that. So it's like, even though they were in the wrong in this situation, like you can see how they're still people.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely something that Star Trek is very good at, is not having a villain who is so obviously only villainous.
Yeah.
But who has humanity still. And that started too in TNG with the Four Lights, where Picard is captured by the Cardassians.
Yeah.
And he's interrogated. But there's this whole through line there where the interrogator is like trying to get information out of Picard and he's torturing him. But as we do it, Picard is learning how he grew up in the gutter, just eating garbage because of how badly Cardassia had gotten, how bad their society had gotten, and how these wars that they conducted maybe were the only hope that they had. Like, that's how he has food now, is because he's in the army and because he's conducting these interrogations.
Man, yeah. Something else I liked a lot too, specifically about the Cardassian culture, and this applies to it applies to all the cultures, but specifically Cardassian culture is like the justice system.
Oh yeah,
and the way that they talk about the justice system, because when they first bring it up, you're like, oh my god, that's so fucking backwards. Like how what? Like that's so wrong. But they do a really good job. Like one of the lawyers in one of the episodes, I remember, like he provides a defense of their justice system that, like, I was like, wow, okay, that actually, yeah. I mean, based on what you just said, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I still don't buy it at all, but like, I can see where they're coming from. You know what I mean?
Which the justice system is based around. They do an investigation, they decide if you're guilty or not, and then they have the trial.
Well, actually, they decide if you're guilty or not before any investigation is done. The investigation is done to confirm what's already been proven.
Well, all right, kind of, I think, because they have to have some like reason to think that you did it. Like if
someone powerful enough and with enough influence says that you did something, that's it.
Yeah. Well,
like, you're
guilty. I think it's kind of mixed. And I think that's part of the thing where it's why it kind of goes bad and why the system doesn't work is because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is an element of kind of the investigation is because I mean, otherwise, how do you determine just randomly? Like,
well, yeah. And from what I remember, that was it. Like and that's what this lawyer was saying is he said the process isn't important.
Yeah.
Right. Whether the person is guilty or not is actually of no importance at all. Mm-hmm. What's important and what the legal system exists to do is to provide comfort to the larger community.
Yeah.
And to reinforce the idea that why am I thinking Bajorans? That's not Cardassians. That Cardassia is strong and that it's unified and that Cardassia knows where it's going. So whether the person is innocent or not is irrelevant.
And rule of law exists and people get punished. And, you know, that you can see that happen. That's why they want people to confess. And
yes.
And not only confess, but realize that they were wrong at the end of it. And confess that they now realize how they were wrong. Because it gives people this story where they can understand. They can see that people have done this bad thing and that they were brought to justice. And not only were they brought to justice, but they realize that they were brought to justice.
Yeah.
And it sucks and it's dumb and it's the worst. But you can get into that place and you can see how it's not just a cartoonishly evil system just to make them cartoon villains.
Yeah. There's actually logic behind it.
Yeah.
Like the logic is fucked up and, you know, terrible, but it's there. And like I could imagine how that would make sense for their culture, you know? And so, something else that I find really interesting about the show is I knew that Ronald Moore had been involved with the show, but I didn't really know to what extent.
Who's Ronald Moore now?
He is Ronald Moore and David Icke or Eek. I don't know how it's pronounced. They were the primary creative people behind Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, really?
And Ronald Moore is also doing Outlander now on Stars. And Battlestar Galactica is my second favorite show of all time. It recently eclipsed by The 100.
Ah, nice.
Yeah. So, my Twitter ID, BSG Brian, that's where the BSG comes from, is Battlestar Galactica. But, I was interested to see, like, what Ronald Moore's influence on DS9 was. And what's interesting is, like, as the show goes on, you can see he gets more and more involved. He starts directing episodes. He starts writing them. Like, I forget it might have even been season 1. He was, like, a co-executive producer. Mm-hmm. But you can see the more he gets involved, like, the darker the stories get, the more detailed the world gets. And the more it really starts to resemble, in a lot of ways, what Battlestar Galactica was. I was like, I can totally see where Battlestar Galactica came from now, because it's here.
Yeah. And I think talking about this, we've talked about the villains a lot. And a lot of people complain that the villains in Star Trek have not been the same since Wrath of Khan. That the villains kind of peaked with Khan. Because of
what?
I've heard this complaint a lot because of the kind of things, at least in the films.
Oh, well, films I could see that, yeah, but not in the TV shows.
And I think this is the best that we've gotten since Wrath of Khan for villains, because there are good arc villains that we don't have in like TNG. TNG doesn't have arcs the way that Deep Space Nine does.
Well, and I mean, we haven't even brought up the Dominion yet.
Yeah.
Or the Jem'Hadar. or the whatever the fuck that other race is, the Zord. What?
The Breen.
Not the Breen. The like the administrative race that the Dominion.
Oh,
uses.
the Vorta.
Vorta. Yeah.
Oh, the Vorta are the saddest.
Saddest meaning what?
They're the most like you feel sorry for them because they're genetically engineered, and so are the Jem'Hadar, but the Jem'Hadar are so gung ho about their existence and their place in the universe.
Yeah.
But the Vorta display an occasional like just sadness about their place in the universe. Like they're smarter and they realize that perhaps they've been done an injustice.
Yeah.
Even though they don't have the wherewithal and they weren't created to do anything about it or to stick up for themselves, they still kind of have that knowledge. We see Wei Yun in one of them. He's like, the Vorta don't have taste buds. It's too bad, really. And same thing, maybe there's another one about like music where he's like, we have no understanding of music.
Yep.
And kind of wishfully though. And it's sad. You're like, oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
What a bankrupt kind of existence.
Well, and the Jem'Hadar too. I think the show did a really good job of making the Jem'Hadar a very balanced enemy. Like we've said before, like with the Cardassians, the Jem'Hadar are not presented as being all bad. In fact, in almost every case that they have like a major presence in the story, there's always at least one of them that is like to some degree, a genuinely stand-up character. Yeah. Like I remember there's one where they're taken to like a penal colony, like a POW camp on this asteroid, and the leader of the Jem'Hadar wants Worf to fight because he's a Klingon, so he's supposed to be this big bad enemy, and they want to basically break him to raise the morale of the Jem'Hadar on the prison colony. And so Worf starts fighting, and he's just beating everyone. Like, no one can defeat him. Yeah. But he's slowly being worn down. And so eventually he beats everyone to the point that the only person left to fight him is the first. Yeah. And the Vorta is like, what are you doing? Don't fight him. Just kill him. Like, what's the thing? And the Jem'Hadar's like, he's like, no, like he's a valiant warrior. Like he's proven himself, like I owe it to him. He's earned the honor of fighting me. Like this is a real thing. And so Worf fights him, and I think there's at least one point during the fight where it's clear that Worf has lost because he's just, exhausted and whatever.
He's seriously injured from the previous fights at that point. Oh, yeah. He has like broken ribs. He's all fucked up.
Oh, yeah. But he won't give up.
Yeah. Beforehand, Bashir is like, you're going to die if you do this.
Yeah.
There is no way, and Worf is going to do it anyway because that's Worf. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And he doesn't ever give up during the fight. Yeah. And then at one point the Vorta is like, okay, this is done. Like just kill him, just shoot him. And the Jem'Hadar says no. He says no. He has proven himself. He gets to live. And the Vorta ends up killing the Jem'Hadar because he refuses a direct order.
Yeah. And it's worth noting that he can surrender. There's a mechanism to surrender, but Worf won't surrender because he's buying time for everyone else to escape.
Yeah. I mean, it's so good. It's so good.
And I think they play the Jem'Hadar against the Klingons a lot. There's a lot of specific contrast. Like they are very much opposites, even though they are very close.
Oh yeah, because they're both like warrior races, and
they're both this warrior race. But like the Klingons, their motto is, today is a good day to die, right? Yeah. But the Jem'Hadar, victory is life. Yeah. They have this like opposite kind of thing. It's similar though, because they're saying we are dead already. The only way that we are alive is if we are victorious.
Well, and that's actually part of their motto that the Jem'Hadar say before they go into battle. Yeah. Is that like we are already dead. Yeah. Like the only way for us to live is to be victorious. Yeah. Which is actually true because of the Ketracel White. Like they really are living on borrowed time all the time.
And the Klingons are the opposite. They're alive, but they're looking for death out there. They're coming from the opposite direction. And similarly, we see that a lot of the Klingons, even though they have this society based around honor, there's a lot of like behind the scenes shadow play, like politicking going on. Yeah. And it's rare to have a Klingon who is as stand up, as straight laced, as like by the books as Worf is. Yeah. Worf is kind of an outlier. Yeah. But the Jem'Hadar, they're all like that. They are all straight up code of honor. It's the outliers who are not.
Yeah. Well, and so something that I like about the show broadly is that it's really a show of outcasts. Like almost everyone on Deep Space Nine is an outcast. Odo, he's like he chooses to be an outcast, but he's still an outcast. Worf is an outcast, like several times, disowned by the Klingon race.
In and out, yeah.
And then, like he ends up in a good place, but he has to earn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not given to him, and it's not something that just falls in his lap. Like he earns it. And then Dax as well. Like she is in many ways, she's like out of her element. She's over her head. Like she is stubborn enough that she goes against the rules a lot of times. Kira is very much the same way. She's not necessarily like shunned by Bajoran culture or anything, but she has no problems at all like being shunned to do something that she believes is right. I mean, really, like Cisco, I think is Cisco and maybe I'm blanking on and then Quark also, completely kicked out of the Ferengi Commerce Guild.
Yeah, he's like excommunicated from Ferengi society.
Yeah,
like hardcore outcast.
For standing up, because he eventually gets to the point where he stands up for and defends his mother, who wants to wear clothes and earn profit. Like, you want to talk about like a commentary on feminism? Like, what the fuck? That's awesome. Yeah. Like, and then Cisco, I think, is one of my I like the progression of his character, and I like a lot of the subtleties of his character, especially toward the end of the show.
Yeah, we see him very opposed to, like in the first episode, opposed to Picard, the character that we'd seen before, because Picard killed his wife when he was Locutus of Borg.
What? I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, that's the first episode. They have this super awkward meeting where Picard is briefing him on his mission in Bajor.
Wait, Picard killed Cisco's wife.
Yeah, Picard killed Cisco's wife as Locutus of Borg.
Yes.
So, and then we see him deal with Q in that episode too, or in the next episode. But and you see Q has this completely different relationship where Q shows up and Cisco just punches him in the face. Q's like, haha, boxing match. And Cisco is like, all right, I'm just going to punch you then. And Q is even like, Picard would never have done that. And Cisco says, I'm not Picard, which is a great way to begin that series, because we've been established and what we've been used to is TNG. And it sets up that, like, this is not the same character. It's not the same thing that you're used to. And then he slowly becomes more and more outcast from the Federation as the show goes on, and as he comes to think of Bajor more as home than Earth.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the whole thing with him being the emissary and, like, his struggle with that whole thing. And, there's just, and see, we're already at, like, 35 minutes, but it's so difficult to talk about this show, like, in any kind of a concise way, because it's 7 seasons, and it's old TV seasons. There's like 24 episodes in every season instead of like the 12 or 13 that we get now.
Yeah.
So there's so much content, and what's incredible to me is that there's filler. There are definitely filler episodes. There are definitely things, but like there's just so much story, and there's so much characterization, and there's so much that happens in the series, and so much of it is really great. God, if you're watching this show, you probably have seen the series. If not, I highly recommend watching it. If you've never seen any kind of a Star Trek series before at all, it's not like you're going to be worse off than if you had seen anything else. It's a great standalone series. And again, I can definitely see why people rate it as the best. I would say it's interchangeable number one with TNG.
Yeah.
But it's right up there with some of the greatest TV of all time.
If you haven't watched Star Wars before, don't try and go back and watch them in order. Don't watch TNG or TOS first.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you find like a guide online or something that says like, watch this episode, then skip this episode, because there are a bunch of bad TOS episodes. And
TOS does not hold up.
You will get lost. And to be fair, the first couple of seasons of TNG are pretty hit or miss too. And a lot of the scripts in the first couple of seasons of TNG are like reworked scripts from that never got used in TOS, or that were planned for some things were planned for phase 2, where they were going to renew TOS, but they never ended up doing it. And some things maybe got carried over from that. Supposedly, Star Trek the movie was originally a script for a single episode of TOS Phase 2, and they just padded it out, which I would believe. The movie's kind of padded. Anyway, we'll cover that in another episode.
I was going to say, that's another topic, yeah.
But I think, and we've discussed this a little bit, and let us know what you think about this, but we're talking about doing some commentaries on Deep Space Nine, just picking out a couple of episodes, not like the whole thing, not in order necessarily, but we'll pick out an episode. Even if you haven't watched it, we'll be giving you some context as it goes along,
Mm-hmm.
and you can follow along, and we'll talk about how we like it. Or there's one episode in particular that I think is really bad, and we should totally take a look at that one.
Ooh, yes, that'd be good. That'd be very good.
And just look at it and be like, what is this filler episode? What is this nonsense? It is
This
a
is
filler
garbage.
episode, and it's just nonsense. But yeah, so let us know.
All right.
And,
Yes.
and I think we're gonna cut this because we've been going on about it for a while.
Oh yeah, and to be honest, we could keep going on about it forever.
Oh yeah.
But we've said several times, we respect your time, and we're going to have other outlets to do this, so we will do it there. Yeah, so we will cut this off here, and yeah. This brings us to the end of another episode of Egghead Anarchy. I would like to thank you for spending time with us, letting us talk, share our thoughts, maybe our feelings. I don't remember what we talked about, but I'm sure it was fun. If you want to get a hold of me or Alex outside of this show, if you want to tell us what you think, if you want to share an emoji or two with us, you can reach me at BSGBrian on Twitter.
And you can reach me at Senior Don Gatto, also on Twitter. You can also find our Facebook page.
That's right.
At Egghead Anarchy on Facebook.
Yes.
And we would appreciate it if you interacted with our podcast, if you liked it, commented, subscribed to it on any of your services. Same with our Facebook page. This will not only help us reach more people and be successful and happy, but also we've talked about several things here that we might have planned for the future that we're considering.
Yes.
And if you want to be kept updated about that, or if you want to tell us that you hate those ideas, I guess you could also tell us that you like those ideas. Possibly.
I mean, yeah, that's far less likely, but
That would be a great way to do that.
yes.
Let us know, subscribe, interact, let us know what's up. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you guys have a great day.